Good morning, everyone. Please get ready for the teaching. It's time. Okay, everyone, please prostrate 3 times. Then take your seat. Aspiration book, page number 6. Please, everyone, look at Aspiration book, page number 6.
Nam lo ngo se ngo so ba se se yo ma ye jra yo jra mo lan ma ngo ro ma sra ve ngo je la por de ye me do mo je je la yo lo lo ma no do me je je mo lo lo je je so lo lo je je de lo zo ne lo je zo je ngo mo nyu ro lo zo.
Mandala offering, page number 28, short mandala offering, page number 28. From bottom to top, the second line. From bottom, second line, page number 28.
Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me clearly? Okay, good. Also, good morning to the folks out there. I watched the recording last night just to make sure, to check which mistakes I made. And it wasn't too bad. And I noticed there are a good number of people out there, but I do not know actually who exactly. Yeah. But in any way, welcome out there. We discussed mind, right? And we came up with a chart which looks at first complicated, right? I think I never looked at all of the factors, to be honest, right? But what I was interested in, what are the key points, right? Which factors we really need to be aware of in our practice, and which one we need to emphasize, and what are the main hindrances we have. We usually call them kleshas, right? A generic term. So we'll get today, hold on, I think. Okay, I need to turn off, my computer talks with me. Study is similar than practice, from my point of view. I wrote once a paper, Study as Practice. And I did a 4-year study retreat. And there wasn't much to follow up on that point. But after my 3-year retreat, I felt there was something. 3-year retreat is great and clears up a lot of things. And it's practice. So I think I just did that because people were always telling me I study so much and I never practice. So now I did it. I can say now I did a 3-year retreat. You cannot get to me in this way. In any way, afterwards you evaluate, and maybe I should tell you a few stories. We had 8 or 9 3-retreat cycles at Gampo Abbey. I was fortunate to be at the first one. And fortunate here means like we had all these teachers coming, like Lama Tashi from Toronto, Lama Sherab Tendar. And we had this feeling that we really needed to learn it because we knew they would only be there for a little while, right? A few months. Lama Sherab was maybe 3 months there, something like that. So whatever we learned, we wrote down in manuals and made videos so that we could replay it. And then we had certain people who were in charge of passing on the knowledge to the next group, right? And so then we had 3 or 4 of these cycles. And at some point we had an audience with Trungpa Rinpoche. And someone stood up and asked the question. It was at the end of his retreat. And he asked Rinpoche, we just came out of retreat and we are not the same people as we were at the beginning. But we also did not make it on the bhumis, on the to become a real bodhisattva, right? We are not a Rinpoche or something, but we just feel like we are half-baked, right? And then we clarified to Rinpoche what half-baked meant. Now he understands. And so then the question was, of course, are the Tibetans doing it better than us? You know, is it just us who did not make it all the way? Or how did we do? So he wanted to evaluate where we stand. Is there something we didn't do or could improve? And then Rinpoche actually said, no, that's exactly, there's not much difference between the Tibetans when they do a 3-retreat and us. And yes, half-baked is a good term. And then he said, and it will stay like this for quite a while. So, in other words, there's always something more to deepen and to stabilize and to clear up. But some of it you cannot rush, right? And so I wanted to share this. So basically I came out of retreat and Mahamudra phase for 3 months was for most of us the crucial experience. The other practices, of course, were familiar. We had this requirement in order to get into the retreat, you need to have finished Vajrayogini practice at that point. That means Nundro and fire pujas and this whole thing. And so basically we had a certain familiarity also with Chakasamara before we went into retreat. And but in any way, that was a good assessment. You know, there's still a way to go, and how can I stabilize that? So then, therefore, I'm a little bit on the studious side, but I actually don't study as much as people think I do. But I only do when there are classes to prepare, so to speak. Otherwise, I had to run a center from time to time, and you don't have time. Ask Lama Zangpo. It's just like you do all these things. In any way, so I came up with the idea, how can I further stabilize it? And Rinpoche, of course, there's the 3-retreat and there's the Kshetra, right? And we started the Kshetra after the 3-retreat. And it started out with that I was dissatisfied with this weekend programs. Sorry, we have a weekend program. There's nothing wrong with weekend program, don't get me wrong. But I thought anyone who wants to become an electrician or a doctor, you cannot learn your trade on a weekend, even when you have several of them. You need a continuity and a certain thoroughness, right? So at some point I went to Trungpa Rinpoche and said, please help. What should we do here at Gampo Abbey, right? And can you give me 5 texts which we all should be studying and where we could invite Tibetan Lamas to come as they teach us a 3 retreat to set up sort of a thorough study program? And he said, I give you 8. So those were the 8 traditional texts which they used in the Kshetra. So we did a mini Kshetra, don't get me wrong. We did not manage to do a 12-year one. But in other words, there was something like study has an important role to play. And the question is, what's the difference? So if you study a lot, your mind gets restless, gets irritated, and passionate, and the same as with practice. There are certain practice sessions where everything goes really well, and then the next practice session is usually miserable, right? Because you have the expectation to continue. So in other words, at some point I compared what's the common factor we're all dealing with, and one of it is kleshas. In both situations you deal with kleshas. But then also, what are the advantages of practice and study? Practice is obviously, if you're around long enough, and if questions come up, you know the answers. You say, oh yeah, we know that, right? And that's a nice illusion, right? It's you think you know, but it maybe hasn't really touched you, right? And also we have this habit, we're not supposed to talk too much about our practice. You just talk with your teacher and so on, right? But Trungpa Rinpoche was different. Trungpa Rinpoche wanted people to talk with each other. But in a protected space, not just with anyone, right? And so that part, we were encouraged when we have people who do similar practice to share from time to time. And that's usually a positive experience. Sometimes it doesn't work out. You walk away and say, oh, I wish I wouldn't have brought up the issue, right? For example, you bring up something very important to you, and you say, yeah, I know that, but what about lunch now, or whatever, right? You basically want people to respond. So in both situations, you have a little bit disappointment occasionally, but also we're basically half-baked, right? It doesn't come full-baked for anyone really, right? But practice, of course, it grounds you, and you have a chance to do something again and again and again and again, till you it becomes part of your subconscious stream. You don't need to think about what's the right thing. You basically have an attitude, a feeling. You feel it in your body. You have maybe heart connections, as we said. But what about study? Study, obviously, some of these texts, they are so technical, right? And it needs a particular mindset, and it's not meant for everyone. But therefore, you have this wonderful teacher who is, from my point of view, the teacher of the teacher of the teachers, and that was Trungpa Rinpoche. I've never seen a Tibetan Lama who is so clear about how the process of learning and the process of practice. Actually, I'm going to get to the last point, but these stories I think are important. They at least were for me. At some point, Changro Rinpoche was there, and I went to him and said, couldn't you give a talk on this, right? And what did he do? It was a good topic, there was no question about it. He takes out a notebook and then looks it, and I do not know what's in this notebook. I already have taught this here. Do you want me to teach that again? So there was this notion of study has to be structured and you build on top of each other, right? You have a topic, and then when you return, you connect with it, you build the next step on it. And there's a whole series of texts. And if you study all these traditional texts, and their job is to introduce you to the most important factors for practice and study, right? And how to get enlightenment in many respects, whatever that might mean. But in practice, we sometimes say, yeah, I know that, just let's not talk about it, It's just like, you're just an intellectual, right? But study moves in areas where you habitually might not want to go. I'm not sure about how you practice, but every one of you probably has a style. Certain things are important to you, and other ones, maybe you're not even aware of them, right? You are basically, or ignore them and say, that's not so important. But study always guides you through all the aspects of a topic. It makes you complete, and the outcome of it is afterwards you can relax. And you can basically graduate from university and says, from now onwards, I am on my own, but I'm on my own in an educated way, in a way where I have given enough knowledge to be on my own. And the goal of every educator is to make the student independent, in spite of there's a close relationship. You know what I mean? You want to make people grown-ups. And just one more point, and then I stop with my sidetracking. But I think these things are important whenever we study. I was teaching a course on the Vajrayogini lineage holders. It's this long, how many? 44 lineage holders, or 45? And you know a good number, your favorites, like mine, Gampopa, for example, or certain Karmapas, and or Lotrataya in particularly, right? So I thought there was a way to become enlightened, and everyone follows it. And yes, there are patterns. There are certain things every lineage holder needs to learn, right? But then His Holiness Seventh Karmapa said, these 44 ways, life stories, are not suggestion how the Kagyus become enlightened. There's not a single way. He said there are 44 different ways how you can become enlightened. And the teacher's job is not to produce clones of himself, right? But to help the person to find his own way. And for that, you give them enough teachings and advice, but then they need to go and meditate and work things out on their own. They need to find their own way. And if you actually look through the figures, Milarepa and Gampopa, I mean, they are like, or Milarepa and Marpa, or Naropa and Marpa. Maybe Marpa and Naropa may not too dissimilar. But Milarepa and Gampopa, come on, I mean, like, or Milarepa and Maripa, householder and crazy. They're all different, completely different. So now we work here with the mind. And you might get this impression that there's one mind you all should become, and that would be then a good Buddhist, right? But for example, now you are lined up nicely, 2, 4, 5, we have 20 people here. And we think we're in the same room, right? But what is your name? Susan. And what is your name? Sorry? The young gentleman. I want to have a male, female perspective. What's your name? Yeah. Chang? Yeah. In any way, what do you see? Right now, when you're in this room? People, but what do you see? You do not see the people? You do see the people? You have eyes in your back? You do? No, I want to know what you experience. If you would have a camera in your eyes, and Chang has a camera in his eyes, and I have a camera in my eyes, we all assume we're in the same room, right? See the same people. If we look the video, if we record it and look at it, each one of you will have, you could not never say we see the same, right? So then, not only I have a mother here with children, right? Do you have children, Chang? No. Life story completely different. So we want to move towards, when we're in a class, we don't want you to clone and become the one student of Trungpa Rinpoche. Trungpa Rinpoche always encouraged every student in his own way. And that means that you need to have a close look at your mind, and that's the topic of today. So we looked yesterday, there's this multitude of factors, but you are unique. Even the Buddha would not be your mind, or let's say in Yogacara view where we say everything is mind. That does not mean that everything is the same mind. Everyone has a unique mind. And so basically when I look at you, each one of you lives in a completely different world from my point of view. If you think you all do the same, you don't have much to talk about. But if you walk around and say, oh, actually, I'm not just me different from you, I am in fact quite different. I have a completely different history, different age. Each one of you has a different story, different education. That's the facts. And that's what we find out when we look at mind. Even though there's a certain commonality, there are certain patterns, we all have kleshas, right? But in spite of all that, you have to work on your own kleshas. So right now, we had yesterday a chart, so I talk a little bit longer than today's a little shorter. Let me briefly summarize what I wanted to repeat. So in other words, repeating is part of the practice of study. You cannot just assume once. I'll give you another little story. I asked Khenpo Tsultrim how to do a study retreat. And he said, you have 4 sessions. In the first session, you memorize a verse. And then in the second session, you repeat the verse to yourself. In the third session, you repeat the word to yourself. In the fourth session, you repeat the verse to yourself. Now, you read the verse and say, I know that, right? And I could promise you, in the first session you memorize, in the second, what do I have to do for the rest of the day? I know this. But repeating the same verse again and again, at the end of the day, I pretty much can promise you have no clue anymore, much. What you really know. You have different options, right? But you have a path. Or it could go the other way, that you giving a text and you are not allowed to read the commentary on it. And you say, I do not know what this verse means. I have no clue. So then you have to make up your own meaning, because that's all you have. And in the lunch break, you can read a little commentary, but not much. So basically, that's what is studying. Basically, I'm saying repeating what happened yesterday. In my classes, usually at the Kshetra, we had one strategy. We had a class, and people took notes. And in the next class, there was a bowl of names in there. And I picked a name, and whoever I picked had to give a talk, a summary talk. No one knew who will give a talk there. Each one of them had to prepare as if they would be on. That's a good thing to do. And also it has this advantage that usually we think the teacher has all the answers and what. If you believe that, nice, keep it as simple as that. But actually, when we have Dharma friends giving little summaries, they don't need to be perfect, but if you hear it again, first of all, you repeat it, and secondly, you're surprised how much people really know, and they pick up things you, as a teacher, main teacher, do not pick up. So basically, this is the second class, so I have to repeat what we did in the first class. And we, in some sense, we did. Now, let's move on. We did not do certain things about the mind yesterday. We studied the skandhas, right? And there, maybe just sit up. We have 5 skandhas, and we should have a personal connection with it, whatever your personal connection with it is. So the first one is your body. And so maybe just sit there a little bit. I will quickly go through the 5 skandhas. Just feel your body. Try to be straight. Then second skandha is what? Feeling. Look what feeling you have presently, doesn't really matter. I just want you to be aware if it's, I have a pain, I cannot sit so long or whatever, that's what it is. We do not want to manipulate, but you always will have at every moment in your life a feeling. So what is your feeling right now? It must be, oh, it's so blissful because we have this beautiful class. Yeah, good luck. Okay, so just be aware, and you don't need to spend much time on it. Why? Because that doesn't have to be fabricated. You're always there. The third one is the idea, what I call ideation. Sam jna, jna means knowing, and sam means together. I have the capacity to see things of different things together. For example, meditation cushion covers all blue meditation cushions, red meditation cushions, right? So sam jna means knowing things together and not just one by one. If we would not have that, I would have to look at Susan and say, when I talk with Susan, I would say, your arms, fingers, elbows, shoulders, And it would take me a whole hour till I say, oh, Susan, now, you know, that's you, right? I just simply say Susan. I have one name and it applies. That is connected with the third skandha. And we should know that's the power of the human mind in particular. It's connected with speech. And in Greek philosophy, they often said the distinction between animals and humans are that animals don't have speech. That's what they thought. We no longer agree with that. Well, if you met Gunkar, he talks with you a lot. The fourth one is, I mentioned personality. It means to you, oh, I am endless possibility. This sounds a little bit like a Buddha nature, Tathagata. I am endless possibility. But here you can back it up with, oh, what I think I can determine to some degree, right? And I don't have to be just the same person or personality again and again. In fact, you never are. For example, when you meet your mother or your children or the school teacher of your children or your boss, you might be completely different people. You can boss around your children if you want, but boss around the boss, no, oh yes, master, I do whatever you want or whatever, right? So that's possibility, and that's ingrained in us, right? So you can play around. And the fifth skandha is basically it's like a hub, which like a rotary, they come all the different thoughts come together, and the consciousness holds them together. So maybe that's enough. So we review this a little bit, and tomorrow we will review it one more time, and then maybe I will ask one of you to do the review. It's not that difficult. Okay, good. So what we did, we discussed so far what skandhas are. And there are three terms in Western philosophy which are now used in Buddhist philosophy pretty much throughout. And you say, well, what the heck, these are crazy names, but they're very helpful, right? And there are three approaches to Buddhism, right, and also to Hinduism. Certain religions, for example, most religions have the Four Noble Truths. Everyone talks about this world is full of pain, and there is a cause for it, right? And then, how do I get out of it? And there should be some kind of salvation or heaven or whatever you want to call it. So as such, the Four Noble Truths are not special, sorry to say. But the content of the Four Noble Truths, that is special. Each religion has a different cause for all the suffering and different solutions. Some people think God determines everything. We Buddhists don't rely so much on gods, but then again, we have also God realms, so it's something, a mix of it. But in any way, so this term, what we did yesterday was, what are the things which make us up? And we call this ontological. Ontos means a being, something existing. What are the things I am made up of? And so whenever we say the ontological approach, means what am I? I am the five skandhas. And the fourth skandha is what? The fourth skandha is all these many different factors. The second skandha is feeling, yes, but what kind? Pleasant feeling. This is what we are. Then that's one way to look at mind. You give a list of factors which make you up, the building blocks of you, so to speak. Is that roughly clear? If I talk too quickly or whatever, please slow me down. So the first teachings of the Buddha was ontological. He tells you, you are not a single, a permanent, independent self. You are made out of parts which are impermanent, not single, a multitude, and not independent from others. We are dependent on others. That worked at the beginning, but then the Buddha changed his mind, shifted a new direction. And he said, what does a mind do? What's the definition of all the minds which covers the mental events and the main mind? What's the main division? Main definition? You can say the mind is the 5 skandhas. That's an ontological. But the main definition, which is given in the Loric teachings, classifications of mind, mind is that which is clear and aware. This definition is given from a point of view of difference to matter. Matter is not aware. Aware of what, by the way? Aware of an object, right? So that definition, which is how does the mind perceive things, that we call epistemological. And I might use these terms again because I just give you a term, you will know then right away what I'm talking about. It comes with a whole field of experience. Most of Buddhism is epistemological. How do I perceive things? How do I misperceive things? So the key point is, what does clear mean? And what does aware mean? So aware is easy at first, very easy. I'm aware of objects. I'm aware of seeing you out there, the shrine room and all those things. So that also means the mind can never, let's first, clear means I'm knowing, I'm self-aware, I have mind is knowing. Not knowing what, it's knowing. And knowing, whenever you know something like 2 and 2 is 4, you just think about the result, the object, so to speak, right? If you do not know, for example, what is 253 plus 7 plus or times 33, you say, I want to know, I want to know. So again, you start noticing knowing when it doesn't work, if you do not get easily the result. Another example by Trungpa Rinpoche. I asked Ponpa Rinpoche what does clear mean and what does aware mean? It looks a little bit like this, little similar in the English language. And then aware, there's another definition, mind is that which is aware of an object, right? So therefore we can know that aware refers to the object. We use the term aware of an object. That looks very simple for right now, but that gets tricky. What's the object? Okay. But clear, I asked Ponpa Rinpoche, is clear something like knowing, self-awareness? And he said, yes. And then Trungpa Rinpoche, usually there's discussion, how can the mind be self-aware? It's like you stand on your own shoulders. You know, how can you be, I'm aware of myself, it has to be something separate, right? But then Trungpa Rinpoche used the example, look, what is this cup? It's Trungpa Rinpoche answers. He said, Trungpa Rinpoche, I pretend Trungpa Rinpoche, do I need to ask someone else whether I see this cup? No, Trungpa Rinpoche, no, I don't know, I just know. I'm not looking at myself like I will be outside of it. Self-aware does not mean like a subject-object relationship. It's an inner quality of knowing. You do not need to ask someone else. So that quality of knowing applies to all the kleshas. They are also mind, they also know, right? They are self-aware. You're aware that you're angry. You do not need to ask someone, hey, brother, am I angry? No, you don't. You know yourself. So that's what we mean by knowing and then aware. So those are two aspects. Now, that means, can you be yourself? Susan, for example, I take you now for the rest of the class. Susan, can you be yourself without an object? You sure? That means you are me? Is there a form of knowing which doesn't have an object? Be careful with the answer to this. This is a tricky one. When we have the mind-only school, does that mean that I am all the objects? I am the wall. Is there someone in the room who says they are the wall? If mind is that which is aware of the object, what we need to know right now, all of you see me and you might get irritated about me. What is he talking about? The world is out there, it has nothing to do with me. If the world would really be out there, how would you know about the world? Is that clear, that reasoning? If the world would really be separate from you, like if the wall has nothing to do with your mind, as we all think, unless we have real problems, right? I usually think that the world out there is separate from me, right? But if it's really completely separate, then how can I know about it? I would not even know about it. So here, what we have to learn, and I want to bring this in with a definition of mind. Yes, it's pretty straightforward. Number one, my mind does not function without an object. None of the minds work without an object. Every mind needs an object. Now you could say, what's the big deal about this? If I have a klesha, the klesha has an object, right? The klesha is in general a mistake, an error. It misperceives the object. Kleshas are errors. And they are emotional errors and intellectual errors. Some kleshas you can overcome just by recognizing their nature. It's like 2 and 2 is 4. From then onwards, you will never ever get confused about it. Other ones, like passion, aggression, the intellectual kleshas are overcome on the path of seeing, on the first bhumi. Certain kleshas are eliminated from your mind forever once you're on the first bhumi. For example, doubt about reality, or is there a self or not? These kind of intellectual errors are kleshas, and you can overcome them at a certain path of. There are 5 paths: the path of accumulation, path of union, path of seeing, path of meditation, and path of no meditation. Nirvana starts on the path of seeing. There are different kinds of nirvanas. There's the nirvana of doubt. There's the nirvana of considering oneself as a self. There are different levels of nirvana. Each klesha has a nirvana. And some of the kleshas you overcome halfway through the path, and other ones will not go away by seeing them correctly once. For example, you can say, often they use this example, if a person is attached to another person, right, attracted to the person, and then works through it and say, no, I'm no longer attracted to this person. Does that mean that this person is never ever attracted to other people? No, right? So basically, passion and aggression are certain kleshas which are only overcome through repeated practice. We need to know this about the kleshas. So right now we had kleshas, and we call them errors. But some errors can be eliminated by just seeing what they are, like 2 and 2 is 4. From then onwards, you will never ever say it's 5 or 6. Other ones, they come up again and again. They need time. You need to put the time. That also means, by the way, even bodhisattvas on the 5th bhumi still have kleshas. But not manifest coarse kleshas, but subtle level. And which brings in another point. How late do we have right now? I can go till what? What time? 11:45? Right, okay, good, we're fine. Kleshas are not just kleshas. Each klesha has 9 levels of kleshas. When I say being on the bhumi, do people understand what that means? It means you are a bodhisattva. You have achieved some level of enlightenment, certainty in yourself. You have not eliminated all problems, but you have reached a certainty about I am not a single, permanent, independent self, for example, right? So 9 levels. If the kleshas can only be overcome on the path of seeing, does that mean now we can all go home because lay people or monastics who are not on the bhumis, their practice is hopeless? I mean, they're never been. No. Everyone from the beginning can overcome certain level of kleshas, and there are 9 levels. There is a strong klesha, a medium klesha, and a weak klesha. The strong is divided strong, medium, strong, weak. The medium, strong, medium, and so on. So that means that in general you can overcome the kleshas gradually. Just through mindfulness practice, you can say, oh no, I don't need to act out this klesha. And when you work on it, through shamatha or whatever, you can say, I'm still having the klesha. And then you can walk around, have the solution, I'm still having the klesha. I'm not getting anywhere in my practice. It's just hopeless. I should give all up. That's one reaction. Or you could say, I still have a klesha, but it's much less than it was a year ago. Sometimes we have this with older practitioners, like people who are around 20, 30 years, and then new people come into the community and they look at them and say, they practice for so long, it doesn't seem to be working, just like. And there's one traditional answer to that one, and that is, you should have seen these people 20 years ago. So basically, practice means improving. Kleshas is not just kleshas. Our intention, of course, is to overcome the kleshas or transform them into wisdom. We will get into that. But we need to here study kleshas so because you are able right now to work with your kleshas, but you better do it in a deliberate way so that I'll give you one example. I give you all these examples, I get sidetracked. But they were meaningful to me. I entered the 3 retreat with a goal that in post-meditation my mind would be stable in terms of perceiving everything as mind. Now what happened? I did not succeed with that. And I said, then it must have been an error. I mean, maybe I did something wrong or whatever. But then I read Abhidharma Kosha or Yogacara text. What do they say? No, even the bodhisattvas do not have a stable, non-dual experience until the sixth bhumi, I think. Only at that point can you expect to be in a continuous non-dual experience. So I did not have to look down on me and say, I'm actually just doing fine, you know. It's just like I still have a further to go. So the path helps you to clear up where are you and to say what is presently accessible to me. What my goal here is today, I want to open up your mind to consider that the objects are part of you. That's a little bit goal of mine. It's one of the main kleshas, dualistic view, that we think that the world out there is separate. In the 5 wisdoms, there are 5 ways of realizing that whatever we perceive and how we interact is all occurring within the mind. Boy, is this still working? Okay. Okay. Did I say something wrong? So the 5 wisdom work towards non-duality, right? But there are, before you get there, we need to work through the coarse level of the kleshas, the ones we can easily detect, for example, that we get attached to something or get angry, right? And there again, we should know that there are 9 levels. So okay. I'm going to start winging it a little bit, but I think it's better. So we talk about kleshas. And one of my favorite questions in this regard is, what is your favorite klesha? I want you to think about. I give you 1 minute. I give you a few options. Am I attached? Am I angry? Am I jealousy? Am I doubtful? Am I prideful? I'm asking you because of the major defilements, work with the principal ones. You need to work with the bigger defilements first. There's a slogan in this way, right? So we cannot just simply say, I'm trying to work with kleshas. One of the rules of working with kleshas, keep it specific. Have a sense, what is your main problem? And the reason is, if you are too heavily involved, and the main problem usually looks hopeless, right? Then maybe you say, well, not now, I'm not ready for it. I'm going to work on the other ones, which are easier for me and make me not so depressed. For example, no, I never have pride, you know. No, sorry. You have different kleshas. I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to share a file. Okay, we're going to use this one. Okay? Everyone can see it? So basically, this is you, okay? This is your mind and the kleshas and all the other factors, right? And you perceive an object out there. You perceive a second object, a third object, and you perceive other subjects. Now, you just look at an object. Look at the shrine. You like it? Are you attached to it a little bit? Okay. That's one way of interacting with a shrine, right? Let's look at me. Let's assume you like me. Let's just pretend. So much in life is pretend. So let's assume you like me, right? Oh, yeah, so far you did well and whatever, I learned something. He's a real good teacher. Yeah, really a good model. Yeah. Okay, so then we meet a little bit longer. You look at the same with me. You suddenly know, I'm scratching, and he looks old, and all those things. So basically, you might switch your mind. Oh, I dislike it. So in other words, whenever you have an object, you have a feeling which is either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Do you have a choice not to have an attachment if you have a pleasant feeling, a regular person? Whenever we like something, we want to have more of it, right? It's not up to you to have this klesha. That's my point. Whenever you have an object in front of you, you either like it, dislike it, or neutral. You're hardwired with it. If you want to practice and become awake or realize yourself, you need to learn how to relate with objects you like, dislike, or not. Practice should prepare you for that. Why? If you're just good with liking and you do not want to ignore that you actually hate sometimes, oh no, my personality, I'm a very pleasing person, right? I never say anything bad. Occasionally maybe, but let's forget about this. Let's move on, right? So practice, Vajrayana practice, we have 5 kleshas. All of our kleshas, we divide them up into 5. Why? What are the 3? You either attach to something, a klesha, you hate it, or you ignore it. You do not have a say in this, there's no vote. As soon as you have a mind which perceives objects, and if you have if you want to become awake, you need to learn how to relate with attachment, how to relate with hatred, how to relate with ignorance. Those are 3 of the 5 kleshas. For example, you can often oh no, this is too complicated. The mandala structure, when you look up there, for example, has an east, a south, a west, and a north, and a middle, right? The middle represents ignorance. The east, the blue side, represents anger, hatred. The yellow side represents ratana or pride. The west side represents attachment, passion, and the north side represents jealousy, right? Why these 5? Very easy. When I see an object, I either like it, get attached to it, or hate it, or neutral. Those are three situations I need to train in. I might be a person who says, no, I'm a very passionate person. I never have anger. But sooner or later, you will have anger. Why? Because they are objects we do not like. If you're not prepared to deal with this reaction to that object, you might hit someone. I had a friend, we had a party, it was a music party, we had invited many guests, and then a gang comes, and one had a casket, and then he hits me, and he breaks his cast. And I did not know what to do. One of my friends walks up to him and said, you hit me in the face, you can go ahead, just go ahead, hit me. The person melted away, did not want to. He knew how, it was a risky move, right? But what I'm saying, there are situations in life, I driving a car, coming to a rotary, or the red light and a blue light, I'm, okay, come on. We in Germany move much quicker. Come on, don't stop at every passenger. Just drive by, that's me. You should see me driving. So basically, there are these situations. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not too much. Okay, I just want to make a point. As soon as you have a mind which has objects, you have to learn how to deal with being attached to an object, how to hate it, and how also to ignore it. Ignoring is also a problem. You say, no, we can do it tomorrow, it doesn't really matter. And then ignorance is also an action. It's not innocent. So we have three of the main kleshas, right? And in the mandala structure, you usually enter through the east, and the first you see the three kleshas, and they're all lined up. East, aggression, behind ignorance, and then in the west, we have passion attachment, right? Now that leaves us two additional, jealousy and pride. Therefore, now when you look at this, the subject here, right? Do you see the screen? Okay. You have three objects. Either object number one, let's assume it's passion. Object number two is aggression. And object number three is ignorance. There are two other ways. Now we replace the object with a person. We all see people. Whenever you walk around, it's, oh, this person again, he thinks he's better than me, and but I compare myself to other people. Whenever you have other people, do you have a choice not to compare yourself to? No, because they are different. It would be very normal to think, occasionally, maybe you don't, but I bet you do, somewhere, occasionally, think, oh, I'm better than them. They should listen to me and not I listen to them, right? I am, da-da-da. Or you feel like, yeah, look how he walks in. It's, he has this swagger and, everyone likes him. When I walk in the room, no one turns around. This person, yeah. Will this happen? There will be people who have better qualities or seeming. So in other words, the Vajrayana deals with these are the 5 main interactions with objects or people. Is that roughly clear? The 5 wisdoms deal with each of these 5. We have 5 wisdoms because there are 5 kleshas. They are lined up and we still need to get there. Okay. So now, how late is it? We still have 5 minutes. So this, I could go through a text with you and clear this up, but I like talking people through it, and also partly how I approach it myself. So when I go to practice, I make an inventory. When you have a business, let's assume you sell porcelain, right? And then at the end of the month, you go through the business and say you had ordered 10 sets of this, of a real nice set. You like it very, very, very much. A little bit expensive, but I'm going to order 10 because I like it. And then you have another set which looks ordinary and say, I hate it, but let me order a few of them, maybe 5, right? At the end of the month, you notice of your 10 sets which you really like, you only sold 1, but the 5 which you bought, they bought. Now it would be very silly for you to think, I'm going to order another 10 of the nice set. It's just like not realistic. If you haven't sold any of them, why would you order? You still have 9 just because you like it. So now, when we practice, it's important to practice pragmatically. My question to Trungpa Rinpoche was, give me texts which I should be studying. And there are so many different texts. I just need 1 or 2 which are important. So here, what they do in the Vajrayana tradition or Mahayana tradition, in any way, they give you 5 kleshas to work with. And the idea is that these 5 kleshas summarize all the kleshas which exist. They are just grouped into these 5 groups. So now you could say, well, I really like to use the passion one, it feels good, and I ignore the other one. I spend most of my time on passion. I'm good at it, I can transform it or whatever, and therefore I keep on doing it. But you might be completely ill-prepared for the other ones. So when we practice, sometimes we need to be clear, what am I practicing on? And not just, let me just go and practice. When you do Vajrayana practice or Mahayana practice, you need mainly work with your kleshas, and you should have a sense which of the 5 kleshas are your big problem. Now I give you 1 minute to think about that. And you're not going to tell this to anyone, you just talk with yourself. I want to say which of the 5 kleshas, which I offer to you, they are on a special. Passion, is that the issue? Aggression, is that the issue? Ignorance, jealousy, pride, or all of them. I give you these 6 options. And then, that's tricky. Let's look at it this afternoon. But in any way, you figure out which is your biggest problem. And number 2, which of one you know how to handle. So, which of the 5 kleshas you know how to handle, and which ones you don't. One minute. Okay. You will have a lunch break and you can think about this. You need to know what are your main problems. This is very personal, and you might say, I'm not ready to deal with it yet. And therefore, we say, we will give you strategies how to deal with it in a predictable, reliable way. That's what the meditation is actually about. It's, if you would not have this problem, we would not have to talk about it. But the fact that these high teachers say, well, those are the practices, you need to deal with these 5 kleshas, right? They say that they assume they know that you have those problems. And basically also, they might still have some of them themselves, but on a different level, not so expressive or whatever. But the point is we need to bring this to an end. But the point is, work with the major defilements first is one slogan. But it means that you go through a sorting out process and say, which ones, if I have a priority list, I have 5 kleshas, give them a star. That's my biggest, and that's not the least one. Now, this might be the case, or it might be so wrong, right? We don't know. But if we ask that question, and then you spend meditating on it and bring up this question, what is your main klesha, your work? And then once you know that, our job here is to describe how do I deal with a specific klesha and how with any kleshas. We will talk about this afternoon, and we'll do a few exercises. So I will then, for example, ask you to bring up your strongest klesha. Why? It's the easiest to meditate for. Usually we want to just run away from it. And there I will try to teach to you, no, you see that klesha, you run towards it. Yeah, you're going to cannot wait to approach it again. But you approach it with tools in your toolbox. You not just naively go there. And that's what practice is about. And the sadhanas, they all give you these tools, but we then see, by the way, then I pretty much promise you, if you figure out how to deal with one klesha, and therefore we take your strongest because the other one is, yeah, I really don't have it much, and but let me pretend. That does not really work. You want to have something which really works with you. And this was one advice, Anipema. I'm not sure whether you know her, Anipema Chudran. We did once 1 month sitting practice, and she was my meditation instructor. And then I brought up my favorite klesha, right? And said with her, and how do I deal with it? And then she said, well, you worked out, and so when the klesha comes, do this and this and that. And then in one of the sessions, and now we've changed the strategies. Instead of just hoping to make it go away, no, you run towards it. You want to bring it up, but on your own turf, so to speak, when you feel strong. Then you say, no, I'm not running away from you. I'm moving towards you, and I'm curious about you. And curiosity is one of the best antidotes you can apply. Usually we want to run away from kleshas. It doesn't feel good. We see some problems with it. But actually, when we reverse this, and so we're going to talk this afternoon about 4 ways of dealing with kleshas. One is abandoning, remedying, transforming, and self-liberation. And with abandoning, we still try to move away from the klesha. We want to make it go away. With remedying, we invite it in a little, you come in and you take this little medicine, a little bit more friendly towards it. You say, it's a good reminder that I'm not yet fully accomplished, you have a little bit more positive relationship. Transforming, you say, oh, thank you, I really need you. You remind me that of the luminous empty mind or whatever. And then the fourth, self-liberation, is like, we're going to talk about that one. So in other words, we usually have at first an attitude towards the kleshas, we want to abandon them. We want to have nothing to do with them. They should get out of our lives. The fact is, they are not going out of your life. Why? Because you have a mind which is clear and aware of objects. As long as you have objects, you're going to have these 5 reactions towards the objects and people. You do not have a choice. And last word here, if there would be 20 kleshas or 50, you say, I'm not even going to start. It's just endless. But just have 5. If you make progress in one day, by the end of the week, every day take a different klesha. By the end of the week, you will be able to say, at the beginning, I did not know much about them, but at least now I know there are 5. I know a little bit about them. I'm more comfortable with them right now. And in the second week, it will maybe go deeper or whatever. But the idea is it's important that it's 5 and that we understand that if it's 5, that's a very workable situation. This is sort of like going to a grocery shop and I need to have the bananas, then the oatmeal and the milk. And I can do that, right? When you go shopping for a Dharma center, it's more complicated. You say, oh, I don't want to do it. But going to a shop and buy 5 things, you need to come to the kleshas with a feeling of, let's dance or let's explore each other and let's get to know each other. Why? Because the 5 kleshas, they are you, they are not someone else, right? So maybe let's share the merit. So we got a little bit into the kleshas now, and this afternoon we start looking at the specific kleshas, how to work with the objects, how to work with the support system, and then I will give you some chance actually to practice them so that you can also ask questions then, right? And let's see how this goes. By this merit, may all obtain omniscience, may defeat the enemy, wrongdoing from stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings.
Page 217. Page number 217.
May we encounter the kleshas in due time and on our own pace. So kleshas are good news. That's at least where I want to get you to. Kleshas is something exciting to work with. Okay, good. Thank you.